Previously on Farm to Table.
Hi.
Hey, pretty girl.
I'm out here with Rye.
Hey.
We're filming the end of our video. Should we tell them that we're having a baby? See your pretty eyes. We had a baby. No big deal. We had kind of just finished a lot of projects on the farm. So we're like, let's just chill for a while. Boom, I was pregnant.
Are you gonna roll over?
I love our birth story.
You're thinking about it.
It was so much fun. The pain was intense, but to bring River here to Earth on the farm was surreal.
Good job, River. Good job.
Our lives used to look like this.
For years, we got to travel the world, touring with the band I was in.
At the same time, we raised chickens and gardened at home in Nashville. Then we changed everything and moved to my hometown to start a little farm by the beach.
Now our lives look more like this.
We're still learning this farmy lifestyle one sweaty mess at a time, and we're inviting you to learn with us. I'm Nina.
And I'm Brendon.
And this is Farm to Table.
A lot has happened since Rye was here last. Rye, this guy right behind the camera.
Our good buddy.
You can't see me, but I'm here.
He's there, promise.
Right after Thanksgiving, we got cows. We didn't know that one of the cows was pregnant. So she just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
What's up, Big Red?
Is she okay? I was getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Pregnancy contest.
Dang, girl.
We were having a home birth plan for me, having River here on the farm. And it's like, what if the cow and I give birth on the same day? That would be awesome. Outside one morning at like 6:30 before he went to work, and I was taking a walk. I looked over and I said, "Babe, the baby's here!" And he ran out the door, he was freaking out. He's like, "What are you talking about?" Thinking it was something with me.
I looked over and I was like, there's a slimy baby animal over there.
Oh my God. There's a baby cow.
We got cows. We got rid of a rooster, the only other male on the farm.
That's true.
We got a dog.
Her name is Olive. She's a livestock guardian dog. She is beautiful. She's a beast. She's completely outdoors. On my first day of soil science class in college, my professor started talking about how the soil was alive. It's like, what the heck are you talking about? The soil is alive, like the dirt. I learned that there's an entire world underground. You can't really see it. It's microscopic bacteria and fungi and colonies of earthworms and grubs, everything working together in sync to create the web that ultimately feeds our plants water and nutrients. Instead of ever digging down and tilling into the soil, I just use this little hand rake to even out the top of the surface of the soil so that I'm not disrupting the amazing colony of microorganisms in the soil. Because around the roots of each of these plants, there's an incredible life system that's feeding the plants, managing the nutrients and water. That is, of course, until my dog digs a hole. Oh, guilty. You have a guilty little face. Hello. Hello. Did you make your bed in here? Yeah? Did you mess up my tomato plants? Olive is wild, basically.
She'll dig holes in the yard everywhere.
You're gonna be my assistant, Olive? No more sleeping in this garden bed. No more sleeping in here. Excuse me. Excuse me. Oh. Because, oh my gosh, are you kidding? She's laying on my foot. Excuse me, you're making this a little difficult. Can you move? Yeah. Yes. You good girl. I don't usually wear gloves when I garden. Actually, I never do. I always love to feel the soil in my hands, and when I'm planting seeds, I can feel as the seeds leave my fingers that progress is happening. So the best rule of thumb is to plant a seed twice as deep as it is big, which is not very deep, because the seed, once it gets the warmth in the soil and the water on it, it will crack open, and it doesn't take much for it to sprout up through the soil if it's not planted too deep. If it's planted way down there, it might eventually come up, but it's gonna have a harder time. I just kind of go for it. Sometimes the seeds come up and the spacing is way too thick and I have to thin them out. Sometimes the seeds germinate and they're too far spread out, but that's okay. Sometimes it just takes some adjustment. Every seed packet does have spacing on it, so it does help to know, do I plant these seeds 1 inch apart or 1 foot apart? But otherwise, I just kind of feel the seeds as I'm dropping them into the line and cover them up really gently, give them a little pat, and then I always say, see you soon, to the seeds. And I spend a lot of the time in the garden, especially after quarantine. I need somebody to talk to, so getting a shallow trench for seeds this small, just with your hand is fine. Always have clean hands to go into your seed packets, because if you put soil or any moisture into your actual paper seed packet, it's going to affect the quality of the seed. Like, it won't be able to store for as long. I know I'm overseeding these so that if some of them don't germinate and come up, then there's enough to kind of fill in the spaces. All seeds need to sprout is heat and moisture, but then they start using the nutrients in the soil as soon as they pop up and start growing their true leaves. So I still always start with really healthy compost in the bed. This drip line runs every morning, so I don't have to spend an hour and a half watering this garden by hand, even though I love doing that. Okay, these radishes we planted 3 weeks ago.
That's it?
4 weeks ago, and they're ready. Look at you!
Wow. So that's less than a month.
Food.
What's this?
This
Is it
is
just a different variety?
Yeah, it's just a seed packet that has all different varieties of radishes mixed in. It's called Easter egg. Cheers. Dirt and everything. How is it? A little spicy?
This one's not. Yep, getting spicy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Look at this
As
cutie.
soon as I started talking, I went from non-spicy to spicy.
I seed the radishes pretty thick on purpose so that I can harvest a few at about now. And then there's a ton that are still really small. It gives you 2 harvests instead of 1 harvest. So if we pick this many, this is about as many as we'll eat. And then the rest of these will get bigger over the next week or 2, and we'll harvest those. Delish, delish.
I can hear the end of it from the cows. I think this is full of hay. They are sorely mistaken.
Hey, babe. You wanna help? Your hands are tough. You got some calluses. But this morning we are building a compost pile. We're just using what we have. This is not like the most beautiful project. So far, we've just thrown everything to the chickens, and they eat most of it, but not every single thing. So there'll be like scraps of onion peels and broccoli stems and stuff like that left. Now we're gonna have a place where we can put things that the chickens don't eat. Yeah, it's just using stuff we've found around. We got some stakes to stabilize and some pallets, which actually work out great because the airflow is really important for the compost to be able to cook effectively. Someone's excited about the compost pile. Some projects that we do, we really go hard. We like invest in the right tools, and we get amazing materials, and we spend money and time and time and time. Stuff like this that we can just kind of throw together with what we have, that's fine with me. It doesn't all have to be fancy. Part of chicken keeping is what to do with the shells. For this, we can throw the eggshells in the compost, and it adds the calcium back in to our soil that we're going to be putting in the garden. And calcium is a major nutrient that you need to have balanced in the soil for great tasting food. Calcium's super important for basically everything on the farm, including us. So the more calcium we can keep kind of in our closed loop system, the more sustainable we are. I think it's going to be such a cool experience for her to grow up in a place where she can run around. Such a good foundation for a little mind. It's like open space, freedom to explore. What do you think? And we've just begun. We have gardens and chickens and cows, but the dream is to keep expanding and growing, eventually have her help us work it. I think responsibility is going to be so helpful for her being a passionate human. Right now, you are the responsibility.
Pretend like you're seeing it for the first time.
Wow, that looks awesome. This is perfect.
She ain't pretty, but she works. Compost, not you.
I had a feeling I knew what you were talking about. When Brendon and I built our first raised bed garden at home, we used cedar and built the boxes. We filled it all the way to the top with beautiful, rich, organic compost so that the bed was completely full of soil. Then we planted our seeds and our transplants. Throughout the season, as we would harvest and as the rain would fall, it compacted the soil a little bit. As we worked in it with our hands, it compacts the soil a little bit more. But we realized at the end of the season that the soil level was 4 or 5 inches lower than it had been when we started. The soil literally became the food that we were pulling out of the garden. It becomes the green part of the plant, and it becomes the tomatoes and the peppers and the kale and the peas. And then those foods literally become the physical body I'm living in. Soil is everything to us. It's the food that we eat, and it's the nutrients that we're running on. If we're talking about the soil, we have to cook root vegetables. It is what grows underground. They're extra special veggies, I think, because they have this earthy, nutty, incredible flavor. So everybody talks about homegrown tomatoes, how much better they are than if you buy them in the store, for example. But root vegetables, beets and potatoes and carrots really are that much more delicious if you grow them yourself at the right time of year in rich, amazing soil. So we're making beet butter, and then we're gonna roast some root veggies, just a big old mash of everything. This beet butter recipe was inspired by one of my friends in the Pacific Northwest, and I have changed it a little bit to use things that I always have in my pantry, ingredients that I know we love. But if you're making it and you want to use a different type of nut or a different type of oil or a different sweetener, you totally can do that. It's flexible and you can experiment. We're going to cube the beets and toss the greens to the chickens because they love them. We're going to boil them for about 20 minutes until you can stick a fork in the beets and they're totally soft. You throw those in the food processor, and then we're gonna put walnuts, olive oil, sea salt, vanilla, and maple syrup for a little sweetness.
So Nina and I were at a farmer's market about a year ago. I bought turmeric, what I would call a root. Nina has told me it's actually a rhizome. I planted them, and so these 3 plants are all turmeric plants. This is kind of an experiment. I've never done this before, but I'm pretty excited about it. So I'm gonna harvest one of these and see how it goes. I had no idea it actually had flowers like this. Wow, that actually smells really good. So this will go to the compost bin. All right, let's see what we got here. Come on, baby. Oh yeah, nice, beauteous. It's so much more glorious than I even imagined. I see a lot of tea and Indian food in my future. The little scraps I'll feed to the chickens, and some of this I'll plant for the next harvest. Anti-inflammatory, has antioxidants. Apparently, it helps fight off heart disease, cancer, all of the big things that you don't want. It's like really bitter actually by itself. Oh yeah. Delightful.
For the roasted veggies, we're doing 2 different varieties of beets. Red ace beet is that dark, dark red. And then golden beets have that really sunshiny color when you cut through the skin. We're doing garlic, sweet potatoes, carrots, turnips, everything in the bottom drawer of my fridge, basically. If I only have half of these different types of veggies, or if I have different ones, I use whatever we have. This recipe works for one and all different root vegetables. We're gonna cut all the veggies that we have into about the same size. I cut them into little cubes. I'm gonna preheat the oven to 425 with the cast iron pan inside the oven, so it's gonna get nice and hot. Then I'm gonna put the diced up veggies, all the root veggies mixed, into a big pot to boil it for 10 minutes first. This might be a step you haven't tried before. When you roast veggies on such a high temperature, like 425, potatoes, beets, things like that, can tend to get a little bit dry. So if we boil them, which soaks them through first, it's gonna be so much tastier and fluffier. Drain it out, and by the time that's ready, the cast iron pan's gonna be nice and hot. So I'm gonna toss all those veggies in some oil and different herbs, put it in the cast iron, and then roast it. I'll turn it every 15 minutes or so, and it's going to be amazing. We met at the vegetable tray.
We
Does that
did.
surprise anybody?
That's so poetic. The band I was in was playing a show in West Palm Beach. A local band was opening for us, and I noticed a really hot keyboard player.
It was 2010, and I was producing events, and we were bringing in a few different bands from around the country, and we contracted with a band called 10th Avenue North.
I like to lord this over Brendon's head, but I actually met Nina and her mom first. Nina's mom was telling me about this outreach they did in West Palm, and I said, oh yeah, call our people, that sounds amazing. And we ended up doing it, and it was at that show that Brendon met Nina at the vegetable tray. So you're welcome.
So I decided to talk to her backstage at the vegetable tray. So what kind of keyboard are you playing out there?
I was like, I'm not sure. Is that something I should know?
Is that something? So we were off to a great start.
We were at the event, and we were, backstage, and everything's happening, and the bands are coming, and the buses are arriving, and there was a particularly nice young man that I kept noticing Nina chatting with through the day. And then a month or so later, Nina says to me, hey Mom, one of those guys in the band friend requested me on Facebook. And I was like, oh yeah? I watched that relationship very closely.
Got to know her family.
I was having a conversation with her one time and I said, Nina, he likes you. Brendon likes you. And she said, no way, Mom. He's like a lot older than me.
So eventually I told Nina I was into her over the phone, and after pouring out my heart to her, like I had written out notes so I would keep my brain straight and not forget to say anything, and she goes, age is an issue. I need some time. Bye.
I was panicking.
So I was like, great, well, talk to you never.
I said I need a week. I was freaking out. It's like, this guy's not joking. This isn't like a dumb high school relationship. This is like maybe the real deal. I'm pretty sure I wrote a letter of like, this will never work. And then it's like, well, just kind of sat with it for a week. A week later, I called him back and was like, we can talk.
Kept the conversation going. And then eventually Nina said, I don't think this is gonna work out. I'm just not ready. And I said, yeah, I totally understand. And then just kept going as if that conversation never happened. Worked out really well.
It really
Kids just avoid problems and they'll just disappear.
did. Maybe not.
Nina ended up coming to Nashville to go to school. As she says, she went there for
Academics.
the environmental program. She came from me. But
I promised my dad it was for the environmental program.
you promised your dad. Nina is super intelligent. She graduated in 2 years, right?
She actually finished her bachelor's degree in 2.5 years because her father had said, don't even ask about getting married until you finish your college degree. So she was like, okay. She finished it in 2.5 years. And 6 weeks after she graduated from college, Nina and Brendon were married.
Were you sleeping in my garden overnight? I saw you. Olive, come.
She's keeping an eye on that guy.
Come, you're okay. He's not gonna get you. It's just Rye.
Get him. A necessary element of her running and barking is the car driving away. Anything driving toward her.
She's like, I'm out.
Ideally, nothing goes to waste. So whatever the chickens don't eat will be composted, turned into dirt, back in the garden, back on our table, keep the cycle going.
I'm so thankful that Brendon and I both grew up in families that strived to spend dinner time at the table. That is how our family is still so close. The same way the soil is the foundation of a garden and the soil is the foundation of all the growth that we can see, the dinner table is really important for us to go back to, that we can run around working, hustling, being creative, having new ideas, hanging out with friends, but him and I and River and our future babies, we will grow as a family because of the intentionality that we spend just getting there. Sharing a meal, looking at each other in the eye, so much of that is lost, I feel like, now in our culture, and we're so distracted. So just getting rid of the distractions whenever we can. It's not a perfect process. That's not the point. It's not something to compare to anybody else's, but creating a space that feels and is cultivating our family, our community, our friendships. Our time at the dinner table is the most important thing to me because It's what builds our family, and that's the foundation. Like the soil is the foundation of the garden, it's kind of the roots of where we're growing. Don't ramble about blah, 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 blah. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Don't use that. Wow, I really feel that coffee in my brain. Blah, 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 blah. You're gonna know where to cut it. Did somebody fart?
It's probably my breath. Glad we captured that. We harvested radishes from the garden, and while it's a superfood and does wonders for the body, it also does not do wonders for the smell of your burps. Be warned. It's your breath. Is it really? Radish breath.